Coming up, a Sad Styles production. Get into it.
Can we please?
All right, let's do it. Let's do
let's do this thing.
If we can get through all of the stuff that we need to get through in 25 minutes, who knows? But
It was hard making a list of 5 things, I'll tell you that. It was
Dude,
hard.
there's so much stuff. Yeah.
There is so much stuff. Welcome to the Retrograde
podcast where we remind you what you used to love and whether or not you still should.
I'm Andrew Bascom, and with me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself.
Happy New Year in Worth!
Happy New Year in Worth! Yes! Your family came from a very weird part of Eastern Europe. Happy New Year, everybody!
Happy New Year, guys. It is 2022. Gotta say,
oh, wow.
I'm gonna fucking miss 2021. What a gem of a year that was.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone put on Sarah McLachlan and just, I'm so sorry. In memoriam, 2021.
Dude, here's a question for you.
Yes.
Since 2016, which I feel like that was the year that was like, this year fucking sucked. Like 2016 was the year everyone was like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Since then, am I wrong in assuming it has gotten progressively worse every single year?
Well, yeah, because in 2016, we said it was bad because a bunch of celebrities died.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, isn't that sad that celebrities are dying? And like, they're like, a call from 2021 comes in. It's like, half the world is sick. The world is ending. The world economy has fallen to the bottom. Like, it's like, oh God.
Yeah. It just feels like every year, and you and I have spent a lot of these New Year's together, Andrew.
Yes.
It feels like at the end of every year, we're like, you know what? That was rough, but we did it, and we feel good about this coming year. This is the first New Year's where I'm like, I'm not expecting any change next year. I'm
why
to believe
would I
that
think
this
it's
is
gonna
just
get
the
better?
path we're on now. This is it.
Yes.
This is it from now.
Yes, it's like the Patty Harrison thing from I Think You Should Leave. My money's not getting any bigger. It's just getting a little smaller until I die. And I think it's just getting a little worse until I die. So enjoy what's good about it. But that's actually, very apropos of what we're talking about. 2021 sucked. 2022 is probably going to suck. But we should look forward to a few things, and those few things we are going to talk about on this episode today.
That's true. Wait, Andrew, we're doing what on this episode? That's not usually how this episode goes. Usually we take a look back at the games that we used to play when we were kids, usually something we had an affinity towards one way or another. We rate and review the game as we remember it back in the day. It's been a while since I've done this. We take a little break. We play the game, play the listener some of that audio or video if you're watching over on YouTube, and then we come back and rate and review the game as it holds up in the modern day against like the modern games. Are we not doing that today, Andrew?
No, just like 2022, just getting slightly worse. That intro. Yeah, no, we are not doing that today. We can't wait to go back and play video games and talk about retro games and the ways that they influence us today. But we have something to announce. We both got COVID.
Yay!
So, yay! Good start to 2022.
Yeah, it was all I can say is thank God we recorded all of December's episodes in the first week of December, because come the second week of December, shit went downhill fast. And we wouldn't have been able to really finish it up had we not arbitrarily gotten ahead of the game. It kind of messed up the Mushroom Club, because we usually do our year-end Century Club, where we take a shot of beer for a minute for 100 minutes as we ring in the new year, so you could sync it up, because especially this year, that would have made sense because everyone is, it seems, catching COVID and spending New Year's on their own. We could have been there to help them out with it, but we had to cancel that. You got COVID a little bit earlier than I did, and my symptoms are still lingering a little bit, so I had to bail on the Century Club recording, which was a shame.
Right. And today's recording, and that's why we really do like sitting next to each other, playing the video game, talking. We find that visceral experience actually does a big change. So instead, we thought we would bring something over from very typical Mushroom Club, which is of course patreon.com/Retrograde podcast, where we talk about things outside of video games, and we bring it into the Retrograde podcast, which is of course talking about things we are excited about for 2022.
Yeah, you know what? We did over on the Mushroom Club, we talked about the things that we liked best about. I think we did our top 10 favorite things of 2021, which was great.
Yeah, we're new Oprah.
We're the new Oprah, but
we are.
But now we're going to talk about our top favorite things of anticipation in 2022. because why not start the year with a little bit of optimism? I know I just said I swore against that, but let's do that, at least in terms of the mediums that we love. There are a lot of things to look forward to, something we need to address off the top, and we will get to our lists, but we're also just going to talk a little bit of bullshit before that, as we normally do.
It's still an episode of the Retrograde.
It's still an episode of the Retrograde, and Andrew and I haven't spoken in too long, and we have a lot of things to update ourselves on, and you as the listener can just kind of sit in the background and listen to us catch up, which is kind of the premise of a podcast when you think about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But one thing that we're going to need to address before we get into our lists is the fact that we did this over on, I think, the Mushroom Club last year.
Yeah, sounds right.
And some of the items on our list didn't end up coming out in the year 2021, so they may make another appearance.
I'm excited for it for the second year in a row. And I just can't wait for us into, happy 2027, everyone. I'm so excited.
Overwatch
for Mission
2.
Impossible 7. Yeah. Here we go. This is a year. Just sobbing onto camera. It'll be great.
Hey, what year do you think Tom Cruise is going to die? Like, it's going to happen eventually. I think.
I was going to say, are you positive about that? Like, there are a lot of people that there's a lot of people you can be like,
if there's someone that I think might live forever, it honestly, it might be him. He may be the guy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're like, what's the year Betty White's gonna die? I'm like, 2025, she'll be 102. I get it. Yep. Like, it'll be very sad, but what a career. Tom Cruise, you're like, he's Benjamin Buttoning in front of us. And you know what? I'm not a religious person, but what if Scientology comes true and he just floats to another planet and you're like, well, fuck me. I guess I lose.
At this point, it's not a what if Scientology becomes. They seem to have something going for them. Have you seen their church? Money. There you go. And money will buy you an infinite amount of time in life.
There we go. Yes.
If I've learned one thing about this world, that's what that is. So I don't know. I don't know when or if Tom Cruise is going to die, but it's going to be a weird feeling when he does, because he's always just been such a mainstay of a name in action movies and youthfulness in my life.
Oh yeah, no, and I think you might see his appearance coming up in our top fives. But there was a picture of him at a sporting event, let's say, like a public sporting event, and you get to this point now. So he's 59 right now, okay. Uh-huh. And you get to this point where plastic surgery works really well for people.
Yes.
If you get to 40 and all of a sudden you look 30 again and you can kind of continue that 10-year arc, it works really well. Then there gets to a point where your body can't keep up with it anymore and you start to just look weird.
Right.
Those pictures, he looks weird. He looks like he's, which classic plastic surgery thing. He looks like he's wearing a mask.
Yes.
Like it's all puffy and weird and he's wearing somebody else's face. Ooh, did not like that.
It's scary because, like, I get why someone would do it, especially if you're in the public eye. Like, I was thinking about this. I was listening, and you mentioned Oprah recently on this podcast. Yeah. You just mentioned it a few minutes ago.
A few minutes ago, yeah.
Yeah, rewind if you missed that. I highly recommend the listener rewind and listen to you mention Oprah, just so you can catch this reference. But I was listening to a comedian who made a joke about Oprah. It's like, oh, fat, but then skinny and fat. And remember, like, back in at that era when Oprah was huge, like, in terms of her influence.
Popularity,
people were constantly making fun of the fact that she would go from fat to skinny, like that was just a common thing. And I'm like, how fucking awful would that be if every time you open up a newspaper, there's a comment on your weight, and in Tom Cruise's eyes, an image of his face or something? Of course he's going to get like surgery to help himself look better, especially he's being told by the best doctors in the world, like, I can prevent aging for you, but then it catches up to you.
Oh, let's be clear. I am not judging him for this. I think this is a completely natural thing that you would do if your appearance is how you make money.
Yes.
Like, but then, and you also look at, like, okay, now I'm just going to start, like, I'm railing against people here, but you look at photos of, like, Kylie Jenner when she was 16.
Right.
And you look at photos, 10 years later, I guess she's 20. I don't know how old she is. 25, let's say.
She's 42.
And she's 42?
She's 42.
She looks amazing.
She looks great for 42.
It works, right? Like, it works. She looks like a completely different person. And you know what? She's a billionaire or something like that. So to look me in the eye and tell me that wasn't worth it. Like, it totally was worth it.
I know.
So I don't know. It's not a judgment against them. It's just eventually there is dissipating returns on going, oh, it looks good. Oh my God, my children hide. Like, oh God.
Is he smiling or is his skin flat? I don't know. Yeah. Listen, the ravages of age are terrifying, and we're experiencing them as men, as 30-somethings. We're experiencing that as well. Haven't had any work done yet. Maybe I will soon.
No.
Although I did have my septoplasty done. That was what kicked off December. That's why we had to get ahead of the recordings, and thank God we did. And then it was after that, I've made a pretty good recovery. It was right after that when I went for my checkup that I believe I caught COVID at the hospital.
Okay.
Where you're supposed to feel safe. And that just kind of put us on a weird track for the last 2 weeks of December leading up to today, which is the date we're recording is December 31st.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, you're timestamping this for what reason? Prosperity's sake?
Just to tell everyone that, like, that's how much time of our recording schedules has kind of messed us up. You know, obviously it's not releasing that day, but we've just been limited in terms of what we could actually do.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So that's how you think you got COVID, eh? Well, that's interesting. What a weird game to play. How I think I got COVID?
How's that?
Gypsy's Curse.
Oh, Andrew, and I apologize. I was practicing with my book of Gypsy's Curses. I got it from the self-help section. Yeah, I thought it was a book on how to remove Gypsy's curses because I have so many curses on me.
Classic
so
mistake.
I went to Indigo to look at how to get these things gone.
That's a local book chain. Thank you.
Is it? See, I never know which one is the national one. Is
Indigo? You love centering your experiences and saying like, this is what's happening. And everyone's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, some people do. Those Canadian listeners of ours do. That's for damn sure. All 3 Canadian listeners. Canadians hate us. Americans love us.
Americans love us. We are actually way more popular in the States.
In the UK, we're maybe our biggest demographic.
Okay, I'm glad you're doing this because obviously, you know, I was at home for 10 straight days with COVID, not being able to see family over the holidays. It was great, thanks. But is it, I was looking through some of the listening trends. You know where we're very popular? Estonia. So
really?
Any Estonian people that are listening to us, thank you. I wish I had more information about your country to relate you on, but I got nothing.
Is it a country? Do we know that for sure?
Yes, Mikey. Yeah, we're confident on that one.
Well, listen, what I will say to our Estonian listeners is Tyr.
Is that hello?
That's hello. I just don't know if it's pronounced Tyr or Tere or Tere or if it's a whole different pronunciation. Oh, wait, hang on. I may be able to figure. Oh, hang. Tera,
Estonia.
Tera.
I did like that we went from like, hey, we relate to you guys. Thanks very much for listening to going like, hey, how can we hugely insult you immediately? I don't know anything about you. Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
That's how we endear ourselves to our listeners is by insulting them. Andrew, speaking of insulting your family and those around you, one thing we didn't get to talk about because it ended after we had recorded December's episodes was the ending to Succession, a show that's kind of come up on this podcast a few times. Before we get into our lists, we got a few things to catch up on because I've played some games, I've watched some TV, I've watched some movies. Succession, though, is something that we've both experienced.
Yes.
What did you think of the finale? Spoiler alert, potentially, for Succession
I guess so.
for the next 5 minutes or so?
Alert.
Yeah.
Spoiler, it came out 3 weeks ago, so like you gotta live with this. Also Succession is like incredibly popular online, but only among the community that really likes it, which, you know, to that being said, I think it is one of the most talked about non-IP shows on television. Is that fair?
I have to imagine since like what other shows are there that have been this popular to this many people? Maybe White Lotus would have been another one.
Yeah. This Is Us.
This Is Us is a huge one.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad would have had the same sort of appeal where it's like everyone is watching this as it goes. This isn't quite that big, but it feels like everyone was talking about Succession while it was on, and it only seems to be getting more popular.
Yeah, and like the Jeremy Strong profile came out right before episode 6, and lots of people had lots to say about that, about his kind of like maniacal way of working. It's like very Daniel Day-Lewis-esque of living within
method acting, baby.
Method acting within the character. Speaking of Breaking Bad,
it's called
within the character.
Well done.
It's
called acting, my dear. You should try it.
Oh, everyone loves that story. Dustin Hoffman
and Sir
Laurence Olivier.
Sir Lawrence. I was going to say Sir Ian Fleming. He didn't say
Ian
that.
Fleming. No, he didn't. Yeah. No, he would be baffled by what's happening right now to his stories.
I bet you, yes.
Yeah, I don't. The way that we take, okay, first of all, I like the new James Bond. I'm not going to spoil that for everyone because I think it just hit VOD for a lot of people. But like the way the gravitas and the seriousness we take James Bond, I don't think was written in that way. I think it was very over the top and like comical and stuff like that at times.
Right. It doesn't feel like it was ever supposed to be this serious. And I think, but we kind of touched on this in an earlier episode where like that was the thing in like maybe the mid, like 2005 to 2012 or so was when like everything had to be brought back with such a sense of seriousness.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan. Yeah. And
I mean, I think that ushered it in. That's all I'm trying to say.
It really did. And it just felt like everything became so serious that I kind of want a little bit more whimsy to be brought back into our storytelling a little bit. And there is an element of that in Succession as well, where there are some jokes and some characters that just seem so wildly out of place sometimes.
Yes.
Cousin Greg being one that I know you really like. I actually don't quite like Cousin Greg that much.
You're going to tell me you like whimsy and you don't like Cousin Greg. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
I wouldn't say I don't quite. I mean, I did just say that, so I guess I can see why but I didn't. I mean, unless you think that my opinion's less than whatever. If you think that we here for you, we here for you.
But that is also maybe one of the funniest scenes of the whole thing.
That's great. We here for you is fantastic.
Him and Tom deserve their own show. But okay, so actually I guess we are going to spoil this. So heads up if you haven't. The finale with the kids finally bonding together, which is something we talked about previous episode, of saying like, I love when the kids are in the same room together.
Yes.
That's when the show's at its best. And Connor being at that breakfast where they're kind of coming up with this plan and they're just skipping right past him constantly.
And they're
like,
calling
them
calling Jeremy Strong's character or Kendall. Kendall. Yeah, Jesus, I can't remember. Forgot that. Them calling Kendall the oldest brother. And he's like, what the fuck? And they're like, well, you know what we mean. He's like, I literally don't know what you mean. I am the oldest brother. It was like such a good moment in that episode.
It was so good, and he like is so right and takes it seriously, and yet immediately they're like, "Whoa, settle down!
Yeah,
what the fuck is wrong with you? Settle down!" Like he had every reason to be that mad.
Here's one thing before we talk about what that actually leads to after the kids group up together. Season 1, 10 episodes. Season 2, 10 episodes. Season 3, 9 episodes. Why?
It's expensive. It's an expensive show.
I didn't realize it was the last episode until it ended, and I was like, oh, there's no way there's an episode after that.
No, because of the way it ends.
Yes.
Which, heads up, we're getting into it. Because Tom has been a long time my favorite character on the show. I just think the balance that, first of all, he's just a good actor, but the balance between silly and absolutely menacing evil that is inside of him, and then like also like lapdog, like bootlicking, character, because he's this guy from the Midwest that probably didn't have anything, and he realizes he's just moving his way up, which you don't know if he knows that. You don't know if that's his purpose within this family of marrying Shiv and moving his way up socially in the ladder of this company. But by the end of the season finale on season 3, you knew why he did this, and you knew because Shiv had that horrible moment, a couple episodes before that, where she's talking dirty, or there's some kind of like domineering, sexual element to their relationship, and she's like, I don't love you, and there's nothing you're ever going to do about it, and you're like, oh my god, only to flip it around in the season finale, because
it turns out someone sold out the kids on their way to go meet Logan Roy and basically cockblock him from writing them out of the company, essentially.
Financially cockblocked them.
Cockblocking. And it's funny because and it turns out that it was Tom who did it, which is like, that's the big reveal. Because he's the only person who knew it, because Shiv called him thinking he was a lapdog, and he was obviously much more than that, which is such a good turn. I loved that so much.
And the way they did it too was subtle. Like, it's not like and it was Tom and Tom standing there or something like that. It's just his Logan walking by and tapping on like, my boy, and just walks by him, and you're like, and Shiv's the only one that puts it together immediately, and it's like, oh, it's so good.
And the way that their relationship immediately changes, where he's like, oh, it's okay, we'll be okay. Like him doing the thing that she did to him before, and now he is in control of the whole situation. Like literally, they frame it where he is taller than he is up higher than her, and she is down low, and he's it's like, oh man. That was really well done. But
so good.
It's as they were on their way to talk to Logan Roy, I remember thinking like, okay, so if the mom is involved in this and she keeps bringing up this like summer house or something like that, then that's still has to play into this somehow. I was like, there's no way it's going to work, and it's going to have to do with that summer house, and obviously that's what happened.
My player one, I was actually a lot of fun because my player one figured it out really early, and she's like, Tom Fox them, and I'm like, really? And it was before a lot of stuff, and I was like, oh,
I did not predict that.
I know, and I was actually really impressed by it, but I was like, seeing it roll like the ball down the hill, like with that in your back of your head, it was like, oh no, and like the call, and then just like, do you want to do a deal with the devil, Greg? Do you want to do the deal? And he's like, what's good? What's good as a soul anyway?
Yeah,
oh, it's so souls. Good. Yeah, boo. Yeah, because it's still them. They don't change the characters. They're still themselves.
Yeah.
But just like in that silly, like, boo, souls. Perfect. Loved it.
It was great. I loved it. I think that season 3 kind of started a little slow. I know you disagree with me on that, but the last 4 episodes or so, maybe even 5, everything from the birthday onwards were like some of the best episodes of that show.
Yeah. Yeah, the birthday's just tremendous. It's just that great cringe, lack of like introspection, and just have no idea how you're perceived in the world. I love that show, and I can't wait for it to come back in, I don't know, 2 years or something like that, because they film internationally all the time.
Well, you know what did just come back recently after about 15 or 16 years off was The Matrix Resurrections, Andrew, and I finally had a chance to watch that. Have you seen it yet?
You did?
I did.
No, I've had COVID, so I've been at home.
I've been at home as well, but there's no option for me to watch it. I watched it legally, and we'll leave it at that.
Wow, okay, there we go. Leaving it at that. Watched it legally.
And I watched it, my God, it is so good. It is...
Okay.
So you and I did recently our top 5 favorite things, or sorry, top 10 favorite things of the year 2021 on our Mushroom Club, patreon.com/Retrograde podcast. And we had a big notice. You know, Spider-Man we hadn't seen. We hadn't played Halo Infinite at the time, and we hadn't seen The Matrix. The Matrix is easily on that list for me. It easily cracks the top 10 favorite things of the year. In fact, I will go so granular as to say that Jonathan Groff's character in The Matrix Resurrections is one of my top 10 favorite things of that year. He is so fucking perfect in that movie that I almost want to see more Matrix movies just to get more of his character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Wow, okay. Yeah, well, tell me, well, I guess we can't really talk about it. It's been less than 2 weeks since it came out.
Yeah, there's not a ton, but what I'll say is this. Oftentimes when something's being rebooted, I'll point to like 22 Jump Street as an example, where the writers actually point fun at the fact that they were forced to do a sequel without necessarily wanting to do with it. They comment on that in the movie. The same thing happens in The Matrix. There's a meeting that someone has with like a producer, and they're like, hey, we're going to be doing this thing. I know it was like we promised we wouldn't, and they actually say Warner Brothers. So like Warner Brothers has the rights to it, and they were going to do it whether we liked it or not. And so we have to go do this thing again. And you kind of think that sometimes you have to walk a fine line there because it could come across as resentful, or maybe like we never wanted to do this, and therefore this is dumb, so we're going to drag our feet. But I think it was just Lana Wachowski, or one of the Wachowskis that was involved. Yes. Just Lana. The other one actually was a producer, but not a writing credit. And they treated this movie in a way that is backward looking on what The Matrix actually did. And I'm not going to say anything to ruin the plot or even to set up what it is that accomplishes this, because I think that there's some fun in recognizing that. But they attach this story onto it in a way that makes so much sense, both in terms of the context of The Matrix and the context of the real world, as though we in this current world, just like when you're watching the original Matrix, you're like, oh, are we in this world in The Matrix? Watching this one, you're like, oh, are we still in The Matrix? Like they relate it to the modern day really well in a way that can come across as cheesy and ham-handed, maybe a little bit on the nose, but I think they do a fantastic job of it.
Well, there we go. I can't wait to see it. I think you should watch it as soon as you fucking can. But granted, I doubt you're going to be going to movie theaters anytime soon. I don't think. Well, you know what's so funny? Yeah. Everyone yelled at Christopher Nolan, and then eventually Denis Villeneuve had kind of a freak out about like, you can't watch Dune at home. And then I saw Dune in the theater, and I was like, you know what? I think he was right.
He was absolutely right about that. Yeah, Dune was so good in IMAX.
so good, and like the sound and like, oh my god, it was so good. So like there is a certain amount of like maybe I'm gonna wait for theaters for the big ones. I don't know, we'll see.
I thought about that, but I just figured I'm never going to have as much free time as I have right now. I really wanted to watch either The Matrix or Spider-Man. I was able to watch The Matrix, and no regrets. I had such a good time doing it.
No regrets.
What else, Andrew? What did you get? I mean, you had some free time on your hands. What else were you able to get up to?
Well, I've been working on my Oscars list of movies that people are saying, hey, these might be nominated.
Who's coming up to you and saying, hey, these might be Oscar movies? Who's doing that?
Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg. Oh, Steve, you've been in touch with Steven again, eh?
I tried. I changed my number. I blocked, but he, you know, like I'm just worried he's gonna climb like the walls and get up to my apartment. You're like that's where I'm with Steven Spielberg. Just
what was that noise? Is that on your end?
Oh God. Okay,
Andrew.
No, come on, stop that.
Andrew, open the door.
I'm talking about it. I'm talking.
It's Stevie.
Yeah, I know. I'm working. Okay. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Here are the Oscar movies.
I already got this from you.
Okay, if you just is Tom in there? Is Dr. Hanks in there? You'll know it because every time he says something, he signs off with HANX.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen him yet because we haven't watched Spider-Man together yet.
Oh, right, yeah, because he is Spider-Man. He is
Spider-Man. Canonically,
canonically,
yes, he's Spider-Man.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab a croissant. I'll come back in about three or 5 minutes, and we'll check back in with you.
Yeah,
Andrew, is everything okay over there?
They're called butter bagels. What's that?
Is everything okay over there?
No. The answer is no. Short. Sweet, no.
Oh, okay.
But with that being said, I'm working on my Oscar movies.
Okay.
And so there are like large lists of movies that probably will be nominated or have been nominated at other festivals and, you know, things like that. And so like if there's been we don't need to really get into why, but there's been a ton of them released at home now. So so you can kind of work your way through a certain amount right now. And so like something like Don't Look Up.
Right. I've seen that as well.
Which has much derision online about good or bad. The number of people, this has to be the number one movie that people have texted me and gone like, I quit after an hour. I'm like, oh wow, okay. And just a lot of people really hate this movie.
It was very, you know what this movie reminded me of? What was that movie with Gary Oldman and Meryl Streep about the Panama Papers?
Yeah. Laundry?
Yeah. The laundry.
Whatever that's called.
Laundromat.
Yeah. Is it called The Laundry?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It just felt very, it tried to be subtle with it, but it felt very blatant about what it was trying to say in a way that that made me feel like it thought I was stupid for being so obvious about it in some points.
Well, yeah, I think its biggest issues are tonal issues where you don't know what you're getting into with. It's not subtle at all, but that's okay. There is a lot of like, you know, heavy-handed like comedy around it. And so like if it's that kind of movie, okay.
Right.
But at the same time, this idea that it's like, well, it's actually about climate change. It's like, I know. Like, I get it. You're not really hiding it. I don't know. I'm really glad I saw it with knowing that many people hated it. Because my expectations were so much lower that I saw it and I'm like, well, that's not that bad. As bad as everyone else said.
Yeah, I hadn't heard much about it. I saw the trailer. My brother introduced it to us by saying, this is based on a true story. And we're watching it like, wait a second, why is the president a woman? I don't think there's been a female president. And we're like, maybe she's the president of NASA? Is that what we're looking at? And the whole time we're like, something doesn't make sense here. How did we not hear about this? And then we looked it up and obviously it's not based on a true story.
Yeah, no.
We figured it out pretty quick. But
good for you guys. I'm proud of you.
We did it. We did it. But we were.
Do you remember when that comet hit the Earth?
I was reading it more with a slant on COVID, like a commentary on COVID, not quite as much climate change. I think you can apply the same slant to anything. You know, they're talking about the data, they're talking about the facts, the vaccine, this and that. It's more just about political divisiveness and how an issue right in the front of your face is often missed because of politics and feeling as opposed to fact.
Oh, for sure. Like any good story, you know, in the idea is, so the original idea is there was a paper written about a comet that was going to hit us and kill us, and it's about climate change. Like, that is the direct reference to why it is what it is. You know, that, like, if we had made climate change a comet and we knew it was going to kill us, we would act differently than we do now with passive interest and stuff like that. But instead, in this story, they treat the comet like we do climate change and going like, that's been fine.
Yeah.
And then it's just going to wipe us out.
And then it shows how absurd it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that, but it's funny that we get to Adam McKay as a filmmaker, and you kind of go, man, what a confusing career this guy has had. And, and, you know, like, it's good for him. He's made a lot of movies, and movies that have done really well. Sometimes, you know, more underground, and, like, you know, Anchorman was not a success, but now is being referred to as one of the best comedies of the last 30 years and stuff like that, which it should be. But now with his other movies, more of his serious work, like Veep, you know, like The Big Short and stuff like that, they're individual pieces that you go, well, that's interesting. They're trying something different. Okay, whatever. And whether it works for you or not, that's up to you. But, you know, now you look at this and you're like, okay, so what are we doing here? Is this just going to be a forever thing? Like, that you're always going to be making mixed review movies where you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if it's fully successful. I don't know. It's a very interesting career he's kind of pathed out for himself.
Yeah, I was curious. I mean, knowing that he was at the forefront of this one, that he was doing it, I was like, okay, like, it's got to have something to it. It's going to be worth watching. I think it was maybe a little bit too long. And I agree that the tone was sort of all over the place, but an incredible cast of actors in it. I'd say worth watching I mean, it's on Netflix. It's there. You might as well.
Yeah.
I'd say watch The Matrix first, but that's just me. I don't know what more you want.
That's just Mikey. That's just Mikey.
There's one more thing that I do want to kind of quickly mention.
Okay.
It's a little bit in the past, so I don't know how timely it is to bring this up, but I did finish a game over the course of my recovery with COVID, and it was Spider-Man Miles Morales. Great fucking game, man. It's so good. I know that you, Andrew, played Spider-Man when it first came out on the PS4, the Insomniac version. And and that's also a great game, included in the Miles Morales bundle that comes out on the that came out on the PS5. Fantastic looking game. It plays super well. The combat is great. I still think, you know, I don't need to belabor this because it's in the past and it's a year old at this point. But I do actually like the Arkham franchise better. Arkham Knight, I replayed that at the earlier this year as well, and think that was still a better game than Miles Morales. I think the combat was a little bit chunkier. Everything kind of felt like it meshed a little bit better with the storyline. But I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. I actually ran a poll on Twitter, and people, I think Miles Morales edged out like 55 to 45% or something like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I understand. But hey, if you're out there and you have a PS5 and you haven't played Miles Morales, a great way to show off that console's power because it looks great.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's awesome. You know, it's funny because I liked the individual Spider-Man game I played probably more than the Arkham series, and I think it was just more fun. It's like the in-between stuff that I really liked. You know, traveling the city is fun. You know, like
traversal is way better in Spider-Man.
Way better. You know what I mean? Whereas like Batman has to use that, you know, whatever gun is, the
grappling hook,
repelling. Yeah, grappling hook. To travel through a city, and you're like, well, wait a second, what? You know, but I don't blame you for doing it because they're both really good games. So, you know, so
great games. It's
and
I just picked up Solar Ash, which is the sequel to, or not the sequel, sorry, the spiritual successor potentially to Hyperlight Drifter, a game that I've talked a lot about on this podcast. So I have some early impressions that I've released on my Twitter account at Retrograde Mikey. You're at Retrograde Andy. We also have at Retrograde Pod. So check it out there. But I will update us as the weeks go by on my progress with that game as well. I will. But Andrew, look, I think we're wasting too much fucking time. I want to talk to you about what I'm excited about coming up in this frickin' year 2022, the year of our Lord 2022.
The voice of the listener just came through there. I think you're wasting too much fucking time. You know, but yes, we should. Let's get into the things that we're excited about for 2022. This list is long.
Yes.
We have numbered them. We've ranked them. It's been tough, but we have so many honorable mentions, so many other ones that we have to talk about too. So there's lots to talk about here.
So not only are we each going to be giving our top 5 anticipated things of the year 2022, we're also going to, as you mentioned, give some honorable mentions and then have some fun with some of the things that were left off the list. So why don't, Andrew, on the Patreon, you started with your top 5 favorite things of the year 2021. Yes. Why don't I start with my top 5 most anticipated things? I'm going to start at my 5th most anticipated thing of the year moving forward. I have a healthy mix of TV, movies, and video games.
Me too.
I'm curious to see what people think about this pick, because I know a lot of people are going to be excited about it. But I think I've actually been out there saying that I'm not very excited about it. But the more I think about it, the more I actually am. It's The Last of Us, the HBO TV show. I just fucking love Oscar Isaac. The more removed I am from the why are you looking at me like that?
Oscar Isaac is in it?
He plays Joel.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
Who plays Joel?
The Mandalorian.
Oh,
Pascal.
Right, Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
Fuck. You're right.
Well, Mikey, what are you going to do now? No, you're stuck. You had to. Nope. Yeah, it's number 5. Okay,
right.
Number 5 for me.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. Listen, I'm still in my COVID fog.
Okay, sure.
And that's it. And I've been in my COVID fog for all of 2021, which is why I just assumed that he was in that. Wow.
Are you thinking of the Moon Knight?
I know he's in the Moon Knight, another anticipated TV show on my honorable mentions list. No wonder I was like, fuck, he's going to have a busy 2021. Holy shit, Oscar Isaac. But regardless, no, even with Pedro, budget Oscar Isaac, I'm still excited I'm still excited for this show. I am. I think it's going to be, just a peek into the world of The Last of Us. I think it'll be better if it doesn't explicitly follow the story of either of the games. I'd love it to be some stories that kind of exist in between the games or around the games.
Right.
So we get some more context to what it's like living there. I'm sure there will be some flashbacks and some interactions with the moments that you play through in the games. But the farther removed I get from The Last of Us, the more I think about it. It's one of those ones, kind of like Death Stranding, where it's just left such an impression on me that I almost always want to go back and play it, even though I know it's never going to have that same effect on me.
Totally. I'm right there with you. It's an honorable mention for me, but I love this. I'm so excited for this. I'm amazed this got on your list and not on mine, but I'm so excited for this TV show. I think it's going to be really remarkable, and especially having the production team involved in the making of the television show. Some of the visuals they'll be able to do are just going to be awesome. So I'm really excited to see the clickers too, like in an actual real world. I think that's going to be really cool looking.
It could be good, and it could also be very cheesy. So we will hold our breath on that, just as you would if you were walking through a sporous area.
Oh, Sporus, very good. Yes, absolutely. Got to tell your friend Oscar Isaac about that. Okay, so number 5 for me will be Top Gun Maverick. And you know why?
Why?
You know why? You fucking D-Path. You know why? Because I had this on the list last year.
You did.
I'm still excited for it just a year later. So, God damn it. Give me this movie.
You know what? I am incredibly excited for it as well. Do we know when it comes out? Is it March or so?
I have it at May 26th right now.
May 26th. Okay, I am batting 1,000 right now.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows indeed. That's one that I have to watch in theaters. I feel like there's the reason you watch that movie is to see it in IMAX in all its glory.
Absolutely.
So hopefully by then,
I want my ears to bleed with the sound of a jet coming off. Like, whoa.
There's those shows on like TLC where it's like, I fell in love with my car. And I'm like, that's dumb. You're doing that for attention. And then the trailer for Top Gun Maverick came out and I'm like, I would fuck a jet right now.
Absolutely. There is, I think we made this joke in the past, but like they had Navy signups outside of Top Gun in the 80s when the theater, outside the theater when it first came out. This movie will make you go like, yeah, I should be a fighter pilot. Like, I really think I got to sign up for the Army. Like, oh my God.
I think you're actually misquoting that story, Andrew. It wasn't sign up for the Navy. It was sign up for a recreational volleyball league.
Oh, that's what it is. And they hand you a pair of jean shorts. And
they teach you how to high five real well. Yeah. They hand you jean shorts and a bunch of oil.
Yeah, and a bunch of oil. Yeah, exactly. Are these for the shorts? No.
Oh. The oil, I feel like, wouldn't help set very well. Like when you're setting the volleyball, it's going to slip right through and hit you on your little noggin.
Yeah, that's what you got the aviators for, to protect your eyes.
To protect your eyes. Yeah, a lot of people, this is like, I can't believe we have to bring this up again on this podcast, but people don't realize it. When you're a fighter pilot, the reason they give you aviators is not to help you fly the plane. In fact, if you're wearing that while you're flying the plane, that's kind of a miss. People will laugh at you. You keep it for when you play volleyball after you land the plane.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we need a debrief. Everyone to the volleyball field. Volleyball field. Jesus Christ, volleyball court.
And then actually before they start playing volleyball, they say everyone debrief, as in take your briefs off and put on these
take your
jeans.
briefs off. Yes, exactly. Under everyone's jumpers that they, their pilot gear, it's just jean shorts. They're like never nudes.
Yeah. Hey, we did it. We did it.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Andrew. I'm very excited for that movie. It's on my honorable mentions. It didn't make my list because I was hesitant to put something that was on my list last year on this year's list. But I understand why you would, for all the wrong reasons.
Not too good for me. Yeah.
My number 4, I feel like this should come as no surprise, unless you've been listening to this podcast and heard me give my opinion on this movie prior to having watched the trailer, is The Batman. I am now fucking amped for The Batman at number 4.
Yeah.
Is this on your list at all, Andrew?
This is coming up very soon.
Okay, so let's hold it until we get there, and we'll both talk about it at the same time. And then instead,
okay,
Andrew,
you don't have to wait very long.
Okay.
I will go with number 4. Number 4 is going to be an HBO TV show called Winning Time: The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty.
Ooh.
It is a, speaking of Adam McKay, this was the thing I was talking about that we're going to bring up later. It is a recreation with actors playing these roles in like a highly stylized version of Jeff Pearlman's book, Showtime, Magic, Kareem Riley, and the Los Angeles Lakers Dynasty in the 80s. Like John C. Reilly plays Jerry Buss, and like, it looks so silly, so funny, so good. But the guy that got playing Magic is unbelievable. It's just really, really cool. Also, plus, speaking of like little articles about people that were coming out, there's an article that came out with Adam McKay in Vanity Fair where he spoke about, Don't Look Up and what's coming up next with that. But he also spoke about how him and Will Ferrell don't speak anymore. And because they had well, let me explain it. They had a falling out.
Explain it to me.
No.
I can't wait any longer. And it's almost as though like you need to tell me right now, and I don't know why you haven't already done it. Is there something getting in your way from you explaining this to me? It's big news.
You have to let me finish.
Because I will let you finish as long as you promise that you explain this to me now. I can't believe it's been another 10 seconds and I still don't know.
I promise you, I'll tell you all this stuff. Okay, so they're not talking because...
Why aren't they talking, Andrew?
God,
we've established that bit, and I'm now here. I feel like it's been enough. I feel like every time I finish talking, it's like me reaching the end of a year since the year 2016, and I'm thinking, clearly he's going to explain this to me now, and then you start opening up that big, ugly mouth, which you should get plastic surgery on.
Come on! And I have a pretty little mouth.
You have a pretty little mouth. I'd like to kiss you right on it. All right, Andrew, explain to me why Adam McKay and Will Ferrell are
they're not speaking. And part of it was that Adam McKay kind of admits, he goes, I handled the casting of this thing really poorly because Will Ferrell was supposed to play Jerry Buss. And something happened where he doesn't end up playing it, and his good friend John C. Reilly ends up playing it. And Adam McKay kind of was like, yeah, I didn't handle that really well, but, we're doing this. They own a production studio that is very popular, Gary Sanchez, that helps produce Succession, among many other things.
Right.
And so, like, this is kind of like, you're talking about the juicy, undertales of the secrets of the Lakers dynasty. Woo, we're now seeing the secrets of production stuff as well. So that's an interesting, behind the scenes story, but this is going to be so much fun. It's going to be highly stylized. It's going to be talking about, Los Angeles in the 80s. It's going to be great.
So I zoned out for a little bit there. Why aren't they talking?
You really didn't hear me at all?
Sorry, can you just... because you mentioned the whole thing about Adam McKay and Will Ferrell not talking, and that really rattled me. Yeah. So I missed what you just said, because all I'm thinking in my head, I'm rattling this around right now. I'm like, why the frick would these guys not be talking to each other?
Right.
So I can't remember what you just said. I didn't hear it, and I'm sure it wasn't important. But why aren't those two ex-friends talking?
I think you're just going to have to listen to the episode like our Estonian friends.
I refuse.
Okay, so...
I refuse, Andrew.
They're not talking because of a creative decision, much like you and I in probably a year. So...
if it's a creative decision, it was my decision. We all know you can't make creative decisions. You can make decisions. You can make decisions.
Okay, that's going to start after this episode now. Oh my God.
That's crazy, though.
Okay, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is something. Here it is, Andrew. I'm gonna set this up for you right now. My number 3 is something with the word "for" in the title. Where is this coming from? Jackass Forever.
Oh, wait, I'm confused, Mikey. This is your number 3, but it's Jackass 4. Explain this to me.
So when Adam McKay was casting...
he wanted Johnny Knoxville as Jerry Buss. And,
man, I listen, Jackass has been a mainstay in my life for my entire life. I have a Jackass podcast out there. It's called Jackass, a Jackass podcast, where we go back and review every single episode of the TV show Jackass, and every movie, and Viva La Bam, and Wild Boys. It's really a ton of fun, but revisiting all these episodes and even rewatching the trailer for Jackass Forever has made me realize how much, not just in terms of a comedic influence that franchise was, but a sentimental influence, how much it informed my entire personality. And there were moments watching the trailer when I was like getting goosebumps and almost feeling like I was going to tear up, because I'm watching these guys that I just thought were the coolest fucking people in the entire world, giving it one more kick at the can. And they were the coolest people in the world, and there's no debating that.
Oh boy, were they.
There's no debating that. And I just can't wait. I'm so excited. You know, it was supposed to come out, I think, like October of this year, of 2021. And instead we're getting it in March, I believe, of 2022. If we do. Okay. Now, they delayed it because they wanted to make sure people were going to be in theaters. Guess what? They may have to delay it again.
Yeah, the theater thing is always like very, I don't know, tentative, you know, because then like we got movies in theaters October, November, and there was like 2 movies a weekend you had to see and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited by the fact that I get to go back to theaters when I get to, and, you know, to see many movies like Jackass.
Well, isn't it true that Spider-Man, look at me talking to you like a lawyer. Isn't it true, Andrew, that Spider-Man broke like a bunch of box office records?
Oh yeah, huge.
At a time when theaters were kind of in the process of tapering off a little bit too, because you and I wanted to see it in theaters, and right after opening weekend, it started to wind down.
So wind down meaning the disease was rising, and so like it was unsafe.
Yes.
But I think movies like Spider-Man are the reason why theaters, here's the thing, like theaters are dead, and it kills me because it just clearly is that you have to show up for these campaign events. You have to show up for these big circus type movie events, and Spider-Man is exactly like that, where people are like, I've been stuck in my fucking house, I'm gonna see Spider-Man no matter what, even if it might not be safe, and everyone showed up. And it just, what also sucks is like, man, I can't wait to see Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man, but the fact that like it's like, hey, we've got 12 theaters and 11 of them are playing Spider-Man, it's like, good luck, Licorice Pizza. Like, it's like, oh, this sucks.
It's crazy though, because everyone went there to see Spider-Man, and they came back with a different bug.
Mikey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. I like that. No one got turned into Spider-Man. They got turned into Sickman.
Are you, Andrew? Are you excited all about Jackass? Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's like one of these things where like, I really like football, but if someone was like, oh, all those guys like die like in really terrible situations, or, whatever. And you're like, yeah. Like, I just almost have to like put myself in denial.
Yes.
But like some of those speaking of more articles written about people, oh my goodness, what are we literate? The Johnny Knoxville stuff is like, oh, that guy's life is really rough.
Oh, you mean like man. How, like, not in terms of him being a bad person as much as just him dealing with all the injuries and all the
from this, and Johnny Knoxville's the most successful one.
Yes.
Like, so I worry about, and then like few of them are dead, and like know, like I don't know. Part of that is in the back of my head, and I don't want to be like the biggest buzzkill, but get me in the theater with everybody else, and I will laugh till the point of tears.
I totally get that. There is an element of you just have to turn a blind eye to some of it, right or wrong. And I think the NFL is a good comparison because there's so much behind the scenes there that you're just like, oof, this is not good. But toss that pigskin, baby. They can do it real well.
Whew. Absolutely. I have Washington -7. So okay. So my number 3 is your number 4, The Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman. Matt Reeves is The Batman. It's supposed to come out March 4th. I'm going to put supposed to in front of everything. And this movie, that trailer with Nirvana playing and like a slowed down version, it's just one of the best trailers I've ever seen. I'm so excited for this. It is a version of Batman that I've wanted for a long time. Former guest on the podcast, Jesse Borg, and I were texting about that, and he was saying he's so desperate to see Toronto legend Jesse Borg.
Toronto legend,
is it's really important we put that in there. Is that he's been so excited for a detective Batman, and it looks 100%. Closer and closer to that version of it. So I'm so excited for that.
I agree. I think the slow pace. A lot of people think that based on all the Batman movies that we've gotten, it's been really showy. It's been action. It's been set pieces and this and that. I agree. My favorite Batman stories are the ones that are a little bit more slowed down. Like even a non-Batman story where Batman's an ancillary character, but he's there just kind of behind the scenes figuring shit out that no one else can figure out. I love when they lean on that. This guy's really smart. He'll figure out a way to find a solution as opposed to just brute forcing his way to the answer.
Yes.
I from the very beginning, was hesitant to believe that this was going to be a success. I think it was because it was in the wake of The Dark Knight, and I'm like, nothing's going to be better than The Dark Knight. But then I developed a different appreciation for Batman, and not just in the wake in the sense that like obviously the other DC Batman movies had come out, but I just thought like they tried to redo this and it failed. Why are we trying again? Let's just let it lay for a bit, almost forgetting that Batman is like, what do you laugh
No,
at?
there's so much meat on the bone. You're thinking that Warner Brothers is going to be like, you know what? We did Batman. Never need to touch that property again. Everyone go home. Like, it's
that's more a commentary on like, why are we getting excited about this? We know we've got the best version of it. But I'm so, I've come around on that so much. I think Robert Pattinson looks amazing as Batman. And you had been saying that from the beginning, and I definitely hadn't. I just think it's, there's so much here that I'm excited about and so many ways they can get it right. And if they do, it may dethrone The Dark Knight as my favorite cinematic Batman experience.
Well, you know what's funny? Because the Batman, like Dark Knight is so well established as like one of the best comic book movies of all time. If probably not the best because of its like, Oscar nominations. Right. And it had critical success outside of the fandom that likes it, which number one Bat fan out there is Mikey. But,
hey, buddy!
Hey, it's me.
That's my catchphrase.
But yep, that's where everyone knows that. You say it all the time. There's t-shirts and everything. Is that The Dark Knight is not good because of Batman.
Right.
The Dark Knight is a good movie that tells a really good story, and it's hard. It's because of a really good villain that people, really, I think that's the iconic, role in that movie.
Exactly.
I really am excited for this one because it looks like a different take on Batman and Batman being the focus of it. And outside of that, the casting is just like outrageously good. Like Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, you're like, oh yeah, that's totally it. Or Paul Dano as the Riddler, like that looks great.
I love that. Paul Dano as the Riddler is perfect. The Riddler, I think, honestly, like a more subdued Riddler is one of my favorite Batman villains, especially because the way he's portrayed in the comics is often as like notoriously weaker than everyone. But as much as people make fun of him, he is actually smarter. There's the wacky Riddler from like the Batman animated series and the Jim Carrey version and Tim Burton. Then there's the incredibly maniacal Riddler who is sadistic and very smart and does get the upper hand on Batman every so often. And then there's another version of the Riddler that's kind of in between where he's smart but overly confident, kind of like the Riddler in the Arkham games. That version of Riddler I don't love that much.
Right. Okay, well there you go. So Matt Reeves is Batman, March 4th. This is definitely not the last time we're going to be talking about this podcast, so stay tuned. Where are you going with number 2, Mikey?
Number 2, this is going to surprise people because I think for Nintendo fans, this is a lock in at number 1, and a lot of video game fans a lock in at number 1. Not much of an introduction apart from what I want to get into, which is my experience with the first one. This is a sequel to a game that came out with the Nintendo Switch when that first launched. It's Breath of the Wild 2, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. A game that I don't know that there is a Nintendo game that's been more highly anticipated than this one in a very, very long time. I know, Andrew, you never played Breath of the Wild, right?
No, I never played Breath of the Wild, and we know this because Zelda is like a huge dark spot for me in general. So, oopsie doodles. I can't wait to go play this.
That's your
oopsie doodles indeed. Well, it is. Everyone knows that. It's on Frisbees. It's on keychains.
It's weird, but putting catchphrases on Frisbees has always been a weird thing because every time I throw the Frisbee and people are like, wait, they're trying to read it and they're chasing the Frisbee around and it's circling too fast. And then they always, here's the funny thing is every time they're chasing after it to read it, they always trip and fall and they say, oopsie doodles. And I'm like, oh, you read it. And they say, no, I just said what naturally came to me after I fell from trying to spin and run at the same time underneath a Frisbee.
Right. Yeah. Number 1 fan of my merch, sprinting dogs. Love oopsie doodles.
Love oopsie doodles.
No, yeah, no, Zelda's a dark spot for me in my pop culture fandom. So I am not lost on the fact that everybody loved Breath of the Wild. It was one of the best games of the last couple of years, and it getting a sequel, it must be so exciting.
It is very exciting, and here's, I think, why I'm most excited for it and why it ranks so highly on this list is because I think kind of notoriously to those who value my opinion enough to call any of it notorious. Estonians. Yeah. Tere. I was most notoriously kind of down on Breath of the Wild. I thought it got a lot wrong. But I really appreciate the big swing it took to bring the Zelda franchise into a more modern realm. You know, it borrowed a lot from Dark Souls. It borrowed a lot of exploration and gave you this open world in a way that very seldom would Nintendo allow to happen in one of its franchises. They're usually pretty reserved. They usually don't make these marked progressions in one of their franchises, especially one as beloved as Zelda. And I think maybe that actually threw me off a little bit. I wasn't expecting such a big swing. But the more I think about the game, the more I remember exploring it from minute to minute and going around Hyrule at my own pace, the more I realize I really did enjoy that process. It's a long game. I beat it, which is already saying something about me.
Wow, that's amazing.
But here's the thing: is as an RPG that I spend a lot of time with, especially an open world one, I think that it got a ton wrong in terms of the pacing and in terms of what it forced you to do in terms of menus and just wasting your time, generally speaking. I think they could have made it flow a lot better, and I'm hoping that with the sequel, they do that, and that's why I'm so excited. I'm like, oh shit, that game that I was dragging my feet on praising because it got so many of the little things wrong, if they get those little things right, this game is going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah. And was so many people's favorite game. So you got to imagine, improving on top of that's going to be really exciting. So there you go. That's your number 2. That's exciting. Okay, so my number 2, also a video game. It's going to be for the Xbox. And so this is a huge part of me missing out on certain experiences and then like being too late to get back into it.
So 2K23, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Mine, of course, was rest in peace, John Madden. It's John Madden's 2023. Boom. No, it's gonna be from Bethesda. It's gonna be Starfield because what I'm excited for is that I never really got into Elder Scrolls. I never really got into Mass Effect, and this seems like a great combination of the two of them. And I want to be on square one. So I'm excited for the scope of this game. I'm excited for the fantasy elements of space, which I always think are really obviously best friends. And I'm just excited to be playing this game and engrossing myself into this huge world.
I think that's a great choice. I'm fucking pumped for this game as well. I think that anything Bethesda does, I'm willing to give my attention to. They just get so much right. My prediction, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, is that this game doesn't come out in 2022. I think it's going to be pushed to 2023 just based on the way things are going. And based on the fact that Bethesda usually wants to get things right, they're not as famous for delaying their games as, say, Blizzard is, but I know that they're going to want to make sure that they put their best forward.
Is that what Blizzard's famous for?
That's the only thing only misstep they've ever made is not releasing their games on time. Yeah, that's what they're being sued for right now. Don't believe what you've read in the media.
Exactly. That MSM. Oh my God. Okay, so that's my number 2. Mikey, where are you going with number 1?
Okay, so number 1, I'm going to be going with, this is just fucking tailor-made for me. It's tailor-made for me, and I think I had this one on my list last year as well, and I know I said I was going to try to avoid having games repeat if they didn't make it out in 2021, but I have to have this one on. It's Elden Ring. And I don't think there's anyone who's surprised at hearing me say that. They released kind of like an closed beta. I signed up for it to see if I could get in, and I didn't, and I'm kind of happy about it because I'd love to just play the finished product when it comes out in, I believe, March. Just a game that I've been anticipating for a long time, made in tandem with From Software, obviously, and George R.R. Martin. Who knows how much of an influence he had on the game at the end of the day, but I'm just excited to get an open world Dark Souls style game. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me, Kucherov? Are you kidding me?
That's their good Estonian impression.
Are you, Andrew, excited at all for this game? Is there any chance you're going to play this one?
Does it make sense for me to make this the first of those to play?
Well, I know that you like open world games. This one kind of stands separate from all the, like, from Dark Souls and Bloodborne, because, FromSoft, they often have these weird interlinking stories and, like, Easter eggs, and it's unclear whether all of the worlds are intertwined, or if as a development company, they just like to give little hints of things happening and informing one world or the other. So it could be, because this will essentially be a standalone, and maybe, I don't know if it's going to be more forgiving or easier, but it may be a formula that you're more used to in that open world sort of scope.
Yeah, well then I'd love to play it. I just don't know if it's like, if it's a new entry, then and I won't be baffled by like lots of backstory or missing out on, who that guy is. And you're like, I don't know,
half the time you don't know what the fuck's going on in a Souls game anyway until you like really look into it. Yeah.
What an active promotion that is. I obviously I knew what your number one was going to be even before we talked about it. So I'm glad to see that. I'm excited for you. And I'm, once again, like everything on this list, I'm sure we'll talk about it lots on this podcast.
Andrew,
all right.
We're waiting to hear one thing, and we've been waiting a long time. Why did Adam McKay and Will Ferrell break up?
They broke up because of my number one thing I'm anticipating. Thor Love and Thunder, coming out July 8th.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi's, Thor Ragnarok really changed what the MCU looked like at the time, and going into phase 4 now. I don't know if everyone's like super jazzed about it. We haven't seen No Way Home, so we'll see. It could be everything could be way different then. But this just being funny, bringing Natalie Portman back, which was a really great series in the comics. I'm so excited to see what they do here, and it's going to be emotional. It's going to be funny. It's the color scope, the whole thing. I'm just so excited for this movie.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that it didn't make it on my list, but I kind of wanted to save some things for some newer properties. I feel like we're getting a lot of Taika Waititi these days, and that's a great thing. I love Taika, but there is a fear I have of Taika burnout. It's possible. We haven't seen it yet. But I think one thing that makes him special is his simplicity and potentially his scarcity. So when he starts to come in when he's directing half of the movies and TV shows that we're watching, we'll see if we still have the same sort of affinity towards him, or if he kind of gets burnt out a little bit. But as it stands right now, I'm also very excited for that movie.
Yeah, Taika Waititi's Burnout is something I'm also excited for in 2022. I think that's coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah, the new racing game, you mean, right?
Yeah, new racing game by Taika Waititi. Mikey, so those are our list of 5. We have so many other nominations. I don't know how you want to do this. You want to just run through some things real fast?
Let's run some things, and then I have some questions for you about whether you think they're going to be successful or not. But in the meantime, why don't you just run off your list of some honorable mentions?
Okay, I'm going to start with movies here. Okay, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Exciting. It's long setup for all the TV shows, things like that. Nope, coming out on July 22nd, which is, of course, Jordan Peele's latest movie. It stars Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Steven Yeun. Anytime he's making a movie, obviously as a director, you got to be excited for this. John Wick Chapter 4, Jurassic Park Dominion, Elvis, Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, which I think Baz Luhrmann, my temperature on Baz Luhrmann can be up or down at any time, but the fact they're trying to make an Elvis movie with everyone's best friend, Tom Hanks, as Colonel Tom Parker. I think that's great. That's really cool. Mission Impossible 7, we talked about that. Spider-Man Across the Universe Part 1, that was the hardest cut for me. Supposed to come out on October 7th. I'm so excited for that.
I am excited for that. I wonder how good it's going to be without Lord and Miller there helping it through.
Speaking of, I've got a great Lord and Miller thing coming up in a second.
I do too. I
Black
have that
Panther
as well. Yeah.
Oh, you do? It looks so good.
Looks
okay,
amazing.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. The Flash, which I'm not really excited for, but they're doing the Flashpoint story, and Michael Keaton returns as Batman. Well, hello.
That's cool.
Avatar 2, the most successful movie of all time, and no one's talking about it. Everyone's like, I guess, yeah, whatever. Really? Okay, we'll see about that.
I can't believe you had Jurassic Park on your list. That's the one that's throwing me a little bit. Have you liked any of the new Jurassic Park movies?
Mike, it's funny you say that. No. Okay, so I have not. I think Chris Pratt is a highly overrated actor. I'm sorry, Super Chris Pratt from the Mario Brothers.
Oh, you mean Garfield himself?
The last one is Knives Out 2. I love Knives Out 1. I think we need more movies like this that are so much fun. Those are all the movies I had also rants.
Awesome. I have just a kind of like a string of games, movies, and TV.
Go.
So
hit me.
I've got Pokemon Legends is I think the Pokemon game that I'm going to buy. I haven't bought one since Diamond and Pearl. Actually, no, sorry. I did buy one slightly after
Diamond
that.
and Pearl were elderly neighbors of yours, right?
Diamond and Pearl, we used to watch NCIS together like every fucking night.
Nice.
It was great.
That's nice.
And Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, the actual follow-up sequel to Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, one of, I think, my favorite first-person shooter adventure games of all time. Sifu, another game that I think has the potential to be very good. Thor Love and Thunder was on that list as well. Moon Knight being the TV show that I'm potentially most excited for, and maybe I will say this one to give you a lead into your TV shows that you're excited for, Andrew. But the After Party, that's the Lord and Miller show that I'm most excited about. Apple TV, it seems like, is going to be the exclusive
it's Apple TV.
Provider of that. Lord and Miller, everything they do, I want it. I want it all.
Yeah, it looks so good. It looks like the two things people compared it to were Search Party and Older Murders in the Building, which were two things I really loved.
Yes.
So, and the cast is insane. It's Tiffany Haddish, Sam Richardson, Zoe Chow, Ben Schwartz, Ike Barinholtz, Ilana Glazer, Dave Franco. Like, it's bananas, and it seems to be like revealing the events of like a fatal night from a reunion of some kind, like high school reunion. And each episode has a different genre attached to it. So it's like rom-com, musical, neo-noir, action. This sounds so much fun. I can't wait for that.
It really does. The other TV shows, obviously Atlanta season 3 coming back is going to be fucking enormous. I'm so excited. It's been 4 years since Atlanta season 2. How has it been that long? And Better Call Saul season 6. I don't know if they wrapped.
Absolutely. The finale.
Did they wrap filming after what's his name? Bob Odenkirk got his heart attack or had his heart attack?
Yeah, I think it is wrapped filming. I think they're just waiting. I don't know what they're waiting on, but I think they are wrapped filming as far as I know. So the other TV shows I got here, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
They spent $1 billion on this thing.
Yes.
So it's going to be something. House of the Dragons?
Was it $1 billion on just this series, or was it the Lord of the Rings right and licensing, and that includes the Wheel of Time and all that?
I don't know, but as far as I know, the Wheel of Time is Lord of the Rings?
Isn't it?
I have no idea.
I thought Wheel of Time was like a
You really got to start watching what you say here out loud, okay? You got to start. You're just saying stuff, and I
thought it was, but apparently it is not.
No, I don't think so.
What the fuck? I thought it was a Lord of the Rings.
Is Oscar Isaac in it? So no, I think so. The answer to your question is yes, $1 billion on Lord of the Rings, the television show.
Holy shit.
I know, crazy, right? So it's going to be something. And then this is the question I can't wait to ask you. House of Dragons, do you have any interest in more Game of Thrones?
It's amazing how much the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones just completely ruined it for me. Until the book comes out, I'm kind of done with it. Yeah,
there we go. So I'm also not as excited, but I know people are, so I kind of wanted to bring it up. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep.
That's got everyone coming back. Hayden Christensen coming back. Ewan McGregor coming back. So like, we'll see. I have had a weird thing of like, I know you kind of posted recently about not being crazy about Book of Boba Fett. And me neither. It's fine. It's like lukewarm water where you're like, okay.
No, I just tweeted about the fact that I spilled boba on my book.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
Sorry.
it.
That's the Book of Boba.
And it was, the Book of Boba.
Yeah, the Book of Boba. Now it makes me look back on all the Mandalorian stuff and kind of go, like, is it, we originally thought that it was something different. It was like pop culture setting, like The Mandalorian. Oh my God, it's the best television show out there. But now it's getting closer to the MCU stuff where you're like, if you like it, you like it. And you're kind of like, okay, like the ending of season 2 of The Mandalorian, now that I look back on it, I'm like, I do not like that. And I don't know where it goes from there. So I don't know. So maybe it's coloring with one brush. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know you sent me a video that was kind of stripping down The Mandalorian episode by episode, where it's basically like, hey, we need this. Okay, let's go to this planet that has it. We're not going to give you it until you kill this animal. Okay, I killed the animal. Okay, here's the thing. Oh no, Grogu ate it. And that is kind of the premise of everyone. But you know what? The Mandalorian has always been a Western at its heart. And a spaghetti Western is a spaghetti Western. And it always follows that same sort of plot, with some exceptions. I think Sergio Leone kind of brought the genre forward, but in those traditional ones, it's always like a fetch quest. It's a fucking fetch quest, and that's it. So I'm okay with that. That kind of premise being in there. It's predictable. It's fun. Maybe it's not revolutionary, but I like The Mandalorian a lot.
No, that's fine. I just, the end of season 2, it's like, well, where do you go from here now?
Yeah.
And also, does it change our expectation for the show? Now we're waiting for like big reveals all the time.
Yes.
You know, I don't know. We'll see. So there we go. I know you mentioned Moon Knight already, but the Marvel Phase 4 shows of Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel. So that's really exciting. Mandalorian season 3 also. I have The Last of Us on here. And then just for me, because it's a big television show, the last season of The Crown is coming out, which after 6 seasons is finishing. And what I really love it is it moves in every 2 seasons. It changes the cast because they all change in age, like by 10, 15 years, depending. And this is the last season. So we get to see more Diana and Charles and stuff that I remember, stuff that actually was alive for, instead of like the stuff where I was like, is that what happened?
Is that actually what happened?
Okay. Yeah, like, oh my God. So The Crown is something I'm excited for.
They should do one more season of that in space, because we know that's where the royals are going eventually.
Yeah, well, because Dominic Toretto is going to show up and go like, the only thing we have is family, and then like immediately drive his car through Buckingham Palace, and it'll be fantastic.
Some games that I'm excited for: Gotham Knights. That's basically the spiritual follow up to the Arkham franchise. Batman is dead, and you are patrolling Gotham as everyone he's ever trained. Essentially, that one could be great. Overwatch 2 is one that I think would have been on my list from last year. But I just don't know what I think about that. The more they show, the less impressed I am with that game.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that they're basically going to be splitting the multiplayer. So if you have Overwatch 1, you can still kind of play in the Overwatch universe with some maps and things like that. I do want to say, though, there are some things that I'm excited about coming up that I wonder if you think are going to be good or bad. And you mentioned some of them when you were rattling through, but I want to get your opinion on whether you think these are going to be good or a bust. And bust, I will say, is relative to the amount of anticipation around it. Sonic 2, the movie.
No, I do not think it's going to be good. I also didn't like Sonic 1 as much as everyone else. So.
Oh, really? I love Sonic 1, but I think that was lightning in a bottle or lightning in a ring, potentially.
Lightning in a ring. There you go.
I'm predicting a bust as well. What about DC League of Super Pets?
The bar for this kind of stuff is so much lower because of the animation. I think people will like it. I don't think I will like it, but I think it will generally be favorably reviewed.
I think that's going to be the Sonic of this year, or the Detective Pikachu of this year. I think that is going to catch us all by surprise. What about Lightyear?
This seems like a disaster. The fact that the weird things that Chris Evans keeps tweeting out being like, it's not the cartoon, it's based on the real man, and you're like, what is going on? Why does that what? And so I don't know. Pixar's on like a weird rocky road right now. I don't think this is I will go out on a limb and say I don't think this will be very good.
I think it'll be, and this is why I say relative, I think it's going to be a bust relative to the amount of anticipation this movie has. What about, so I actually think I had Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as a potential bust, because Into the Spider-Verse was one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. And I just think without Lord and Miller there, we could be running into some Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 syndrome, where number 1 was one of the funniest movies I've seen, and number 2, I could barely make it through.
I think that's totally fair.
Avatar 2, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think part of the reason why Avatar 1 was so successful was its technology, and people just couldn't believe how good it looked, and they went 3 or 4 times to see that. I don't know if Avatar 2 can make the strides like Avatar 1 did to be just as impressive in that, because I don't think it's a story that people are like, excuse me. I don't think it's a story that people are like, oh my God, that's so good. So I would be very hesitant to think that this is going to be anything close to what Avatar 1 was.
I think I'm cautiously optimistic, and I think that the majority of people are like, we don't need another Avatar, it's going to suck. And then I think every time you doubt James Cameron, he pulls something out of his hat, and that's kind of what I'm banking on.
Yep, absolutely. Doubting James Cameron will lose you money.
Yes, exactly. With Andrew Bascom.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it, Andrew. That's my list. That's kind of all I got going.
Wow.
Tons of things to be excited about in 2022. I'll say this as kind of a little sign-off thing. We talked about COVID in the beginning of this episode and how you and I both had it. You and I both have 2 vaccinations. We had a booking for our boosters. Compared to some of the people we know who didn't have their vaccinations, we had a relatively mild bout with the sickness. So if you're out there and you're questioning it, consider getting your 2 vaccines. As Bob Odenkirk said in I Think You Should Leave season 2, triples is better. So if you can always
triples
go
is better.
So always try to get your booster if you could. I'm still getting mine in January, even though I already got the sickness. I'm going to be a fucking superhuman when it comes to preventing COVID. Just happy to be on the other side of all this.
Absolutely. We're down with the sickness. Yeah, so I'm right there with you. I support you doing that. Please look after the people you care about. So, we're so excited to be back. We're so excited to be back next week, bringing back the normal retrograde, but kicking into 2022 and the many things that we are so excited about. If you are excited about stuff, please let us know at Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy, at Retrograde Pod. Get at us with the things you're excited about because we'd love to talk to you about those.
Absolutely. Sorry for a little bit of a change this week. We're doing the best that we can given the circumstances. Can't wait to go back to normal, but I had a lot of fun doing this. I think there was a blind spot in us not talking about our most anticipated things of the year, and now you guys got that. Usually it's something we put out on the Mushroom Club, our Patreon, but now you all got it. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you do that too? Subscribe to the patreon.com/Retrograde Podcast if you want more stuff like this. But until then, we can't wait to talk to you next week, bringing back video games and talking about them and, dicking around as usual. As always, thank you very much, Estonia. We love every single one of you, and we can't wait to talk to you soon. My name's Andrew Bascom, and with me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself,
Mikey Aaronworth.
This is the Retrograde Podcast.
Game over, and year's just beginning.
Thank you so much for listening to the Retrograde Podcast.
We look forward to recording this podcast all week long, and we hope you guys look forward to listening to it.
You know how we got into retro video game podcasting? For the money and the babes? We're really in it for the ratings and reviews.
Money is ratings. Reviews are babes.
Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you enjoy podcasts.
For any business inquiries, you can always email the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com.
You can find us on Twitter at Retrograde Pod.
And you can find Andrew on Twitter at Retrograde Andy.
And then Mikey at Retrograde Mikey.
Instagram at The Retrograde Podcast. And remember, find us on Patreon, patreon.com/The Retrograde Podcast for all of your non-essential but very much enjoyable content.
We don't ask that you give us much, apart from joining our Patreon. But what we do ask is that you join this community that we've grown.
Also, give us some of your blood.
I want some of your hair in a bag. Thanks for listening from your two dads.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
All right. Mikey's peed and he's back. And there's the end of the episode.
Yep, 100%.